Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and I am so excited today to be part of this thrift flip road trip with Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs, the Crafting Cousins, and Crafting with Indiana Jones. Excited to be part of this because I have some items that I've been hanging on to and I have just been wondering what to do with, and I came up with some pretty neat things that I think you will like. And when you are finished with this video, go to my description box and you will see the playlist. Each of these host channels will be on the playlist for you to watch, as well as an entire playlist of other creators who have joined this challenge. Now, the first thing that I am doing is I am starting with a piece of a piano. Yes, this is the key cover to a piano that my husband's company was getting rid of, and I had a couple of pieces in parts from this piano that I thought would be really cool. I have already done something in the past with one of the pieces, and that has already sold. And so today I have an idea for this key cover. Now, this transfer that I am using is absolutely lovely by Redesign with Prima, and it is called Birds and Berries. And there are some black transfers and there are some white transfers. I cleaned this piece very well, and with a little bit of 4/0 steel wool, I did lightly sand it so that this transfer would adhere and to break down some of the sheen. And then once the transfer is on, I did go out to my garage to see what I might have for some scrap wood. And I had a maple bedside. And so my husband put a groove down it for me so that it would fit right on the top of this piece. And I sanded that maple stain off, and I took my antiquing wax and watered that down. And then I went over this piece with a rag with this antiquing wax twice to get this to be more of a stain, the color that I like better. And I wanted a little bit of gold more so than a reddish orange, because there is gold paint in the black piece, as well as a gold keyhole. And I want to put some gold hooks on this as well, kind of a bronzy gold. I felt like the watered down antiquing wax wasn't quite dark enough, so I took out the Krylon antiquing wax and I put that straight on it over the initial one so that that would darken that a little bit. And then I left it for a little bit, and then when I was finished, I came back and then rubbed that back until I got a beautiful rich brown color. Once the piece was completely dry, my husband helped me to adhere the top onto the front of the piano key so that we could screw that in from underneath, so you would not be able to see any of the screw holes. And then, believe it or not, I found some metal hooks that are the perfect color to go with the paint on the name of the piano, as well as the keyhole, at the dollar store. So I picked up 4 of those metal hooks, and then Ed helped me to drill a hole and get those in the right place so that I could hang that those 4 hooks. And I am absolutely loving this piece, and I am really hoping that somebody who plays piano or has a music room is interested in this. I have no place in my home for it, but I do love it with my black bench here. Now I am on this thrift flip road trip, thrifting from New Hampshire, and many creators are all over the place, so you'll have to find out where they're located. Now, my second DIY I got at my dump on the good table, rather dirty, from Christmas. It had a little drawer in it with those little pitcher holder things, and it had a lot of holes on the top for those metal pieces to go into, and I was not at all interested in that the way that it is, but I did think that I would be able to use these picture things in future flips, and then to do something different with this sweet little case. So I began by taking out the drawer, taking out off the knobs, and getting out some plastic putty. This is kind of a shiny press board. Not certain that it's 100% wood, so I thought this plastic one might do a better job filling these holes. So just using that with a little spatula, I just filled all those holes. And then once this putty is completely dry, it does not take long at all, I just took my little sanding block and I sanded down this whole thing and then washed it again so that there'd be no sandy residue so that I could paint this piece. I sanded the words off the front in case they were in the little Christmassy details, in case they were a little bit raised so that you wouldn't be able to see that underneath the paint. Cleaned that up. And then the color paint that I've decided to use here is called Silver Sage. And it is an absolute gorgeous neutral greenish gray color that I absolutely love and have had in my stash. Now this is a latex. This is a Benjamin Moore, I believe, color. But I love the blue-green tones that it has in it. It did go on a little bit thick, so I did end up having to mist and water that down just a little bit. But once I got the entire piece covered with this lovely color and it had dried, then I pulled out this beautiful transfer called Market Peonies. It might be French Market Peonies. I'm going to link that in my description. I just purchased this on Amazon. I wish that I had the spring IOD. I know you are going to be seeing a whole lot of the spring IOD coming out this week on a whole lot of channels, but I don't have that. But this particular one I think is very shabby chic, French country, and I just think it's really, really beautiful. I love the pink that is in it. I love the script, and I think it goes really well with this beautiful color. Now, before I put the transfer down, I decided I was going to need a little bit more script, so I just took out my stamp that had some script on it, added a little bit of black ink, and then pressed that down toward one side of this box. And then I just cut pieces of the transfer. I love that about transfers. You don't have to use the whole thing all at once. You can cut that up into little bits and pieces. You can use it on a lot of different projects, or you can just use a little bit here and a little bit there on the same project. I did want to cover quite a bit of the top of this, just because even though I had filled the holes and painted over it and everything, there still was a faint shadow of those little tiny holes underneath. I knew that I was going to be putting this on top, so I wasn't terribly worried about that, but I do want the bulk of the top surface to be covered. So I am taking more of those pieces that I had cut off and adding them, and then adding some to the other side as well. To pull a little bit of that together in the front on the drawer, I added just a little bit of the words, and then I went back and just took some of those little cut pieces of the pink flowers and added the peonies to either side just to pick a little bit of that pink up. Now, I was checking on the gold to see if I wanted the gold to remain for the handles or if I was going to want to paint that. I didn't distress this piece back so that the gold edging could show, so I decided that I was not going to keep this the handles in gold. Now, I also wanted to take the IOD Birds and Bees stamp, and I wanted to add some of the stamps in the blank spaces to make this a little bit more of a multimedia piece, to add a little bit more dimension and a little bit more interest, and to pick up a little bit more on the black that is in the transfer. So I am just taking bits and pieces of the stamps, and I am just adding them here and there. So once I had a couple of different birds where I wanted them placed, then I decided to fix a little bit of the branch. It looked a little bit too short to me, and I wanted to extend the branch a little bit, just using a little edge of one of the stamps that came with it to just extend that. And then since this lent itself to bees as well, with all the florals and such, I decided to add a couple of bees here and there, and then pull that in on the drawer front as well. I opted to paint the little knobs that came with this in black just to pull this all together, and I absolutely love the way that this came out. What a transformation from Christmas to French country beautiful. I would love to know what you think about these two pieces so far. And as much as I love them both, I actually think I might like this little third one even better. So I was at my dump and somebody had left a bunch of old yucky tools, but in the tools I found this gorgeous rusty, crusty oil can. And I brought that home and I cleaned that up with a little steel wool and some Dawn dish detergent, took it outside and sprayed it with a clear coat so the rust wouldn't come through. And then I took the top off and just covered the top piece of this and sprayed it with robin's egg paint by Rust-Oleum. And I love this color with this top. I put the top back on and I went into some of those pieces and parts that were left over from some of those transfers, and I put a little bit of wording on the front and then decided that I liked the other side better for display, so I decided to put a little bit more on the other side. That's how this goes. I love the way that this came out. And then I decided to put just a little sweet little piece of a transfer that I had from another leftover part that had a little bit of pink in it on the back side. And that way I could flip this back and forth if I did want to pull out some pink at any point in the future when I display this. And this is definitely a piece that I am going to keep for myself. I took one of those picture holders that came with that other thing and painted it outside with a little bit of a more silver tone, added a little piece of lace around the base and a beautiful little picture of my husband and his siblings when they were young. And I absolutely love the way that this cute little oil can came out. I had seen something somewhat like this sometime back on Pinterest, so this is not an original idea. It's a little bit different, but it is something that I have seen before. But I think that it came out absolutely gorgeous. I would love to know what you think about this. And then I have one more thing that I thought that I would do for this thrift flip road trip video for you to give you some ideas in case you have some of these type items in your own stash to flip. This craft beer bottle was sitting on the table at the dump, and I thought it was kind of cool. It had one of those neat closure tops. So I decided that I was going to clean that up and give that a good paint job. So I took a linen colored paint and I mixed it with just a little bit of baking soda. I did not make this crazy textured. You certainly could. The more baking soda that you add, the more texture that you get. If you have a lot of baking soda, you're going to need to stipple that with your brush, pounce it back and forth rather than brushing it on. Now, I did need to give this 2 coats of paint. And so once I had those 2 coats completed, I had taped off the bottom because I wanted to add some embellishments to the bottom of this bottle. So when both of the coats of paint were dry on this, I peeled off that tape around the bottom, and then I took just some Dollar Tree twine, rope, I don't know. This comes in like a little bundle, and it did take 1.5 bundles. I've had this in my stash for a long, long time, so in my case, I only paid $1 for it. And then I just used my hot glue, and I started gluing to the bottle initially, and then once I had that good and adhered, I did glue the rope to the rope all the way up and around until I covered that glass portion. Cut it off and glued the end of that so that it would be nice and secure. And then my brother taps my maple trees here in New Hampshire. And so I thought it would be fun for him and his wife to have this as a little gift. So I took the free printable that I found on Pinterest of this cute trio of labels, and I just used my wet paintbrush and gave it a rough tear, and then once I got the label out, I just liberally added some Mod Podge to the back. Because this is a rough texture, I knew that I was going to need a little more glue than usual. Did go around it with some distressing ink to darken up that and make it look a little bit more vintage, and also to cover any of the white from tearing it. And then I glued that right onto this, and that was all there was to it. I used a little bit of Ziploc bag to press that down so that it wouldn't tear and to wipe away any excess glue. And that is how that came out. I think that it is really very vintage feeling, maybe a little bit rustic. Could be a lot of fun to add a hang tag. There's a lot of things you could do. You could certainly put some florals in it. You could change up the design on the label for something a little more colorful. So just to give you an idea, if you have anything like this hanging around. And I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. I want to make sure you check out the other creators in the playlist in my description box. And please hit subscribe if you're not subscribed to my channel. I have over 400 videos for you to take a look at. So thank you so much. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.